The sleek diplomatic vessel Starweaver glided through the dark void of space, its crystalline engines humming with power as it approached the Sol system. Inside the ship, Senior Diplomat Taz stood at the command center, his tall, slender frame wrapped in the traditional silver robes of the Galactic Confederation. Final approach to the unexplored system, Diplomat Taz, Science Officer Sue reported, her delicate fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The ship's sensors swept the system, cataloging the planets one by one. Security Chief Jun, muscular by their species standards but still fragile by human measures, frowned at his readouts. Something's wrong with the engine harmonics. The crystal matrix is destabilizing. The first shudder rocked the ship, sending delicate equipment crashing to the floor. Warning lights flooded the command center with a harsh red glow. Ta grabbed onto a support beam as the ship lurched violently. Multiple system failures. Sue's voice rose with panic. The crystal core is fracturing. We're being pulled into the gravity well of the third planet. That's Death World 2317, Jun said, his face paling. Our probes classified it as completely hostile to sentient life. We can't survive a crash there. The Starweaver plunged through Earth's atmosphere, its hull glowing orange with heat. Despite their best efforts, they couldn't regain control. The ship's automated systems engaged emergency protocols, deploying gravity cushions and protective fields. They struck the ground hard, carving a deep trench through a remote forest in South Korea. When the dust settled, the ship lay broken but largely intact, its emergency systems barely functioning. Tide pulled himself up from the floor, checking his environmental suit's integrity. Status report. We're alive, Sue said, her voice shaking. But the ship is beyond repair. The crystal core is completely shattered. She paused, staring at her readings in horror. The atmospheric pressure here is crushing. The gravity is 1.3 times our normal. The temperature variations are lethal. How could anything survive here? Jun activated the external sensors and froze. Impossible. I'm detecting advanced technology. Artificial structures. Power signatures. This can't be right. There's a civilization here. Their shock doubled when their sensors picked up approaching vehicles. Military vehicles by their design. Advanced ones. Seal all entrances, Jun ordered. Activate defensive screens. But Tai raised his hand. No, we're diplomats, not warriors. If there is intelligent life here, we must attempt peaceful contact. They watched through the ship's view screens as the human vehicles surrounded them. Soldiers in combat gear took up positions, their weapons held ready but not threatening. A woman in a military uniform stepped forward. Commander Minna surveyed the crash site with practiced efficiency, directing her troops to secure the perimeter. Behind her, a tall man in civilian clothes carried what appeared to be communication equipment. This was Han, though the aliens didn't know his name yet. Their technology is remarkable, Sue whispered, scanning the human vehicles. How did they develop this in such hostile conditions? The atmospheric oxygen levels alone should make advanced civilization impossible. Tai straightened his robes and activated his universal translator. We must greet them properly. The Confederation's protocols are clear about first contact situations. They emerged from their ship cautiously, their environmental suits compensating for Earth's crushing gravity and dense atmosphere. The humans watched with equal curiosity as the three aliens approached. Han stepped forward with his translation device. After several attempts, their universal translators synchronized with the human language patterns. Basic communication became possible. Welcome to Earth, Han said through the translator. We come in peace and offer assistance. Tay nearly stumbled in shock. These creatures, these humans, spoke of peace while living on a world that should have killed them generations ago. Their bodies seemed to ignore the crushing gravity. They breathed the toxic oxygen-rich air as if it were natural. We are representatives of the Galactic Confederation, Tay replied formally. We apologize for our unexpected arrival. Our ship has suffered catastrophic damage. Commander Minna stepped forward, We can provide shelter and assistance while you repair your vessel." The aliens exchanged glances. Their ship would never fly again. But they couldn't explain that yet. They were stranded on this death world, dependent on the mercy of creatures who had evolved to thrive in conditions that their own people considered impossible. And so began humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization, not with a planned diplomatic mission, but with 3 stranded aliens who were about to learn why Earth had earned its classification as Death World 2317, and why humans were far more remarkable than anyone in the Confederation had imagined. Science Officer Sue took another struggling step forward, her environmental suit whirring as it fought against Earth's crushing gravity. Despite the suit's advanced technology, she felt like she was carrying a mountain on her shoulders. The simple act of walking had become an exhausting challenge. "Please, take a moment to rest," Han said, noticing her difficulty. They had only walked 50 meters from the crash site to the waiting transport vehicles, but Sue was already trembling with exhaustion. Diplomat Tai and Security Chief Jun weren't faring much better. Their species had evolved on a world with significantly lighter gravity, and their bodies simply weren't built for Earth's conditions. Even with their suits providing maximum support, every movement was a battle. Jin, the human xenobiologist, watched with fascination as she recorded their movements on her tablet. "Remarkable," she muttered. "Their muscle and bone structure shows clear adaptation to a low-gravity environment. Earth's gravity must feel like being underwater with weights attached to their bodies." The military convoy transported them to a secure facility nestled in the mountains. The aliens watched in disbelief as human soldiers jogged alongside the vehicles, carrying heavy equipment as if it weighed nothing. Their suits' sensors constantly warned them about the dangerous conditions the humans seemed to ignore completely. Inside the facility, Jin had prepared a special living quarter for them, attempting to match the conditions of their homeworld as closely as possible. But even with reduced artificial gravity and carefully controlled atmospheric conditions, the aliens struggled to adapt. "I don't understand," Sue said, reviewing the environmental readings on her suit's display. "The oxygen levels in this atmosphere should be toxic. How are you not constantly at risk of spontaneous combustion?" Han smiled. "Our bodies evolved to use this level of oxygen. It's what allows us to be so active. We actually need it to survive." The aliens watched through reinforced windows as a sudden rain shower began outside. The humans continued their activities without pause, barely seeming to notice the change in weather. To the alien suits, each raindrop registered as a potential threat, their density and impact force far greater than anything they were used to. "Your weather is as violent as your gravity," Jun commented, flinching as thunder rolled across the sky. "How do you survive such extreme conditions?" Commander Mina, who had been overseeing their security, laughed. "Extreme. This is a mild spring day. Wait until you see what winter brings." The aliens' horror only grew as they learned more about Earth's seasonal changes. Temperature variations that would kill most galactic species were considered normal here. The humans spoke casually about ice, snow, and heat waves as if they were minor inconveniences rather than lethal threats. During their first meal together, the aliens watched in fascination as the humans ate food grown in Earth's dense soil and high gravity. Their own food supplies would last only a few weeks, and the prospect of adapting to Earth cuisine was daunting. "We've analyzed your nutritional needs," Jin explained, showing them data on her tablet. "We're working on synthesizing compatible food sources, but you'll need to gradually adapt to our gravity and atmosphere if you want to survive long-term." Sue attempted to stand up from her chair and immediately stumbled. 2 human guards moved to help her, easily supporting her weight despite her environmental suit adding considerable mass. The ease with which they moved continued to astonish her. "I've never felt so helpless," she admitted to Tai later, as they rested in their quarters. "These humans, they treat this environment as normal. They run, jump, and work in conditions that would kill most species in the Confederation. How did they become so strong?" Outside their window, They watched a group of human children playing in the facility's courtyard. The young ones ran and jumped with boundless energy, their bodies perfectly adapted to forces that the aliens' most advanced technology could barely handle. Perhaps, Tom mused, we've been wrong about what makes a world suitable for life. We classified Earth as a death world because nothing from our worlds could survive here. But we never considered that life might evolve to thrive in these conditions. Jun, who had been monitoring the facility's security systems, added his own observation. Their bodies are like living spacecraft, designed to withstand conditions we need multiple layers of technology to survive. No wonder they've advanced so quickly. They don't need to waste resources just staying alive. As night fell, bringing another temperature shift that their suits marked as dangerous, the aliens watched the humans continue their activities under artificial lighting. The facility never slept, and neither did humanity's relentless energy. We have so much to learn, Sue said, making notes on her datapad as her suit compensated for another gravity fluctuation. If we can understand how they adapted to these conditions, it could revolutionize our understanding of life itself. The humans, for their part, treated their guests' struggles with patient understanding. They modified equipment, adjusted environments, and worked tirelessly to help the aliens adapt to what, to humans, were perfectly normal conditions. As they settled in for their first night on Earth, watching the stars through a sky their suits warned was dense enough to crush most spacecraft, the aliens began to understand why their probes had classified this world as uninhabitable. They had never imagined that life could become strong enough to turn such hostile conditions into a cradle for civilization. They were stranded on a world their people considered hell, surrounded by creatures who called it home. And they were only beginning to understand just how remarkable their hosts truly were. The diplomatic dinner started pleasantly enough in the facility's main conference room. The humans had gone to great lengths to make their alien guests comfortable, setting up special atmospheric controls and gravity regulators around their section of the table. Tai, Sue, and Jun sat in their environmental suits, watching the humans arrange various dishes on the long table. We've prepared a variety of Earth cuisine, Han explained, gesturing to the spread before them. We thought you might be interested in our food culture, even if you can't partake. The aliens observed with scientific curiosity as the humans began to eat. However, their interest turned to horror when Commander Minna cut into what was clearly animal tissue on her plate. "You're consuming dead animal matter?" Sue asked, her voice trembling through the translator. The concept was almost too shocking to process. Jin nodded, pausing with her fork halfway to her mouth. "Yes, we're omnivores. We eat both plant and animal matter. Is that unusual?" Tay's hands gripped the edge of the table. In the Confederation, only primitive predator species consume other animals. No civilized species would. He trailed off as Han took a bite of steak, followed by some vegetables. The casual way the humans switched between plant and animal matter was deeply disturbing to the aliens, whose species had evolved as pure herbivores. "Please, tell us more about your hunting history," Sue requested, her scientific curiosity overcoming her initial shock. The humans shared glances before Han began explaining. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters," he said. "We would chase prey until they collapsed from exhaustion. Our endurance, combined with our ability to regulate body temperature through sweating, made us extremely effective hunters." The aliens' horror grew as they learned more. Humans hadn't just hunted, they had become apex predators on their death world, capable of bringing down animals many times their size through sheer persistence and intelligence. "But surely now, with your technology, you no longer need to," Jun began. "Would you like to see some of our sports?" Commander Minna interrupted, sensing their discomfort and deciding to change the subject. She pulled up some video footage on the room's main screen. The new topic did nothing to ease the aliens' shock. They watched in stunned silence as human athletes performed what seemed like impossible feats. Marathoners ran for hours under the burning sun. Swimmers cut through water pressure that would crush most species. Weightlifters hoisted massive loads in Earth's crushing gravity. "This is entertainment for you?" Sue asked, frantically taking notes. "These activities would kill most sentient species we know." "The human in this recording has been running for over 2 hours," Tay observed, watching a marathon. "In conditions our suits classify as severe heat stress and dangerous atmospheric pressure." The footage shifted to Olympic gymnastics. The aliens watched in disbelief as humans threw themselves through the air, their bodies perfectly adapted to move in Earth's heavy gravity. "Now I understand," Sue said quietly. "Our probes classified Earth as uninhabitable because they were programmed with Confederation standards. They never considered that life could adapt to thrive in these conditions, rather than just survive them." The humans continued eating their dinner, casually discussing various sports and physical activities, while the aliens tried to process what they were seeing. A swimming competition appeared on screen, and Jun actually backed away from the table. "They willingly submerged themselves in dihydrogen monoxide under crushing pressure?" he asked in disbelief. "We call it water," Jin explained. "And yes, we swim for recreation. Many of us learn as children." The aliens watched as human children on the screen played in a pool, their small bodies already showing the incredible adaptations that made such activity possible. "Your young are training to resist the crushing depths already," Tai observed. "Your entire species is engineered by evolution to survive conditions that would kill most spacefaring races." The evening continued, with each new revelation about human capabilities sending ripples of shock through the alien visitors. They learned about extreme sports, about humans climbing frozen mountains, about deep-sea diving and cave exploration. "We knew Earth was classified as a death world," Sue said later, as they retired to their quarters. "But we never understood why. We thought it was uninhabitable because nothing could survive here. Instead, it produced a species so resilient that they treat lethal conditions as entertainment." The aliens spent that night reviewing their data on human physiology with new understanding. Their hosts weren't just surviving on this hostile world. They had been shaped by it, turned into something that most of the galaxy would consider impossible. As they watched the humans continue their activities through the facility's windows, they began to realize that they weren't just dealing with another intelligent species. They were in the presence of beings that their own people would consider superhuman, creatures who had turned the very forces that made Earth a death world into advantages. The galaxy, they realized, was not prepared for humanity. Not at all. The alarm blared through the facility with sudden urgency. Security Chief Jun nearly collapsed as he read the emergency signal from the crashed ship's containment systems. His worst nightmare had just become reality. "The Shadehunter containment unit has failed," he announced, his voice shaking. "3 specimens have escaped." Commander Minna leaned forward in her chair. "What exactly are we dealing with?" "Death," Jun replied simply. "On our colony world of Nexus Prime, just 2 Shadehunters destroyed 3 major cities before we could stop them. They're apex predators, evolved to hunt in environments even harsher than Earth." The aliens watched in confusion as Minna didn't panic. Instead, she picked up her phone and made a series of quick calls. Within 30 minutes, the facility's briefing room was filled with military personnel and wildlife experts. "The creatures are approximately 3 meters tall," Sue explained, projecting an image of a Shadehunter. Its black scales gleamed like polished obsidian, 6 legs rippling with muscle beneath. They can see in complete darkness, track prey through solid walls using echolocation, and their hide is resistant to most energy weapons. The humans studied the image with intense focus rather than fear. Jin was already taking notes, asking detailed questions about the creature's biology. "How do they hunt?" asked Han. "They're ambush predators," Jun explained. "They use their superior senses to track prey, then strike from concealment. Their claws can tear through reinforced steel." "Interesting," Minna said, surprising the aliens with her calm. "So they're like big cats. We can work with that." Within 2 hours, human response teams were deploying into the forest around the crash site. The aliens watched in disbelief as the soldiers carried what seemed to be primitive projectile weapons alongside their modern gear. "Those won't work," Jun protested. "Their hide is too strong. These are armor-piercing rounds," Minna explained, checking her own rifle. "Sometimes old technology works better than new. Plus, we're not planning to fight fair." The aliens observed from the command center as humans demonstrated hunting skills that seemed impossible for a civilized species. Teams moved through the forest with practiced ease, reading broken twigs and displaced leaves like written signs. "Tracks here," reported one soldier over the radio. "They're moving north, probably following a game trail. These things are heavy, leaving deep impressions." Jun watched in amazement as the humans predicted the Shadehunters' movements with uncanny accuracy. They weren't just tracking the creatures, they were thinking like them. "They'll need water soon," Jin observed, studying the tracks through a camera feed. "There's a stream 2 kilometers ahead. Perfect ambush spot." "They're the ambush predators," Sue said nervously. "They'll be expecting prey, not hunters." "Exactly," Minna smiled, and there was something in that smile that reminded the aliens that humans too had evolved as predators. The first engagement happened at dusk. A Shadehunter burst from cover, expecting to find easy prey. Instead, it met coordinated rifle fire from 3 different positions. The humans had predicted its path and set up a kill zone. "Impossible," Jun whispered as the creature fell. They outhunted an apex predator. The other 2 Shadehunters proved more challenging. They adapted quickly, becoming more cautious. But the humans adapted faster. They used thermal imaging to track the creature's body heat. They set up motion sensors and camera networks. They combined high-tech surveillance with primitive tracking techniques. "They're learning the Shadehunters' patterns," Tay observed with growing amazement. "They're not just hunting them, they're studying them." The second Shadehunter fell to a trap. The humans used their knowledge of the creature's hunting behavior against it, setting up a false target while positioning snipers in elevated positions. The aliens watched in awe as the humans demonstrated not just physical capability, but tactical intelligence that rivaled the Shadehunters' natural hunting instincts. The final creature lasted 3 days, longer than any Shadehunter had survived on Nexus Prime. But the humans never lost its trail. They tracked it tirelessly, following it day and night, wearing it down just as their ancestors had worn down prey on the African savanna. Their persistence hunting it, Sue realized, using the same techniques they evolved with. The last Shadehunter died trying to ambush a human patrol, not realizing it had already been surrounded. The humans had turned its own hunting strategy against it, making it think it was the predator when it was actually the prey. As the teams returned to base, Jun finally understood why Earth had produced such remarkable creatures. Humans hadn't just survived on their death world, they had become its ultimate predators. They combined intelligence with physical capability in a way that made them more dangerous than any natural hunter. "Now you understand," Minna said, cleaning her rifle back at the facility. "We don't just survive here. We survive everywhere we go. It's what we do." The aliens looked at their human hosts with new respect and, if they were honest, a touch of fear. They had just watched a supposedly civilized species hunt down and eliminate predators that had devastated entire cities on other worlds, and they had done it with almost casual efficiency. Perhaps they realized classifying Earth as a death world had been correct, not because the planet was too hostile for life, but because it had produced some of the most efficient predators the galaxy had ever seen. The morning sun cast long shadows across the training field as Ty struggled to make a fire using only 2 pieces of wood. His environmental suit's sensors screamed warnings about the friction heat, but Han had insisted he learn this primitive skill. "I don't understand," Ta said, his arms trembling from the effort. "Why not use an energy igniter?" Han knelt beside him, demonstrating the motion again. "Because technology can fail. Our ancestors survived because they learned to use what nature provided. Every human child learns these basics." Nearby, Sue sat with Jin in a modified outdoor lab, studying human biological samples. Her initial disgust at human physiology had turned to fascination as she began to understand the sophistication of their seemingly primitive adaptations. "Your temperature regulation system is remarkable," Sue said, examining microscopic images of human sweat glands. "We thought you were primitive because you leaked water to cool down, but it's actually an incredibly efficient system." Jin nodded, pulling up comparison data. "Most species either hide from heat or rely on technology to survive it. We adapted to work with it instead. Our sweating allows us to stay active in conditions that would cook most other creatures alive." At the military training area, Jun watched in growing appreciation as human special forces demonstrated their combat techniques. Initially, he had considered their reliance on physical combat primitive. Now he saw the incredible adaptability it represented. "Your species can fight effectively in almost any condition," Jun admitted to Commander Mina. "No gravity assistance needed, no environmental suits required, just your bodies and your minds. We evolved to be adaptable," Mina explained, demonstrating a simple but effective takedown move. "Earth throws everything at us. Heat, cold, floods, droughts. We learned to survive it all." The aliens' education continued over the following weeks. They learned how humans had turned their world's harsh conditions into advantages. High gravity had given them dense muscles and strong bones. The oxygen-rich atmosphere had enabled high endurance and quick thinking. Even their omnivorous digestive system, which had initially horrified the aliens, was a masterpiece of biological adaptation. "Watch this," Han said one day, showing Tai a historical video of human distance runners. "Our ancestors could chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. No other known species can match our endurance." Sue's research with Jin revealed more surprises. Human wounds healed with remarkable speed. Their immune systems fought off pathogens that would devastate other species. Even their bones could repair themselves after breaking, a feat that required advanced medical technology on most worlds. "Your bodies are constantly adapting," Sue marveled. "You don't just survive here, you learn from every challenge." Jun's combat training with the Special Forces taught him perhaps the most surprising lesson. Humans weren't just physically capable. Their minds had been shaped by Earth's challenges too. They could improvise solutions, adapt tactics, and outthink opponents in ways that went far beyond simple predator instincts. "They think in 3 dimensions naturally," Jun reported to Tai after a training session. "Most species need special training for that. Humans evolved doing it because their world demanded it." The aliens began to understand that what they had dismissed as primitive was actually elegant in its efficiency. Humans didn't need complex technology to survive because their bodies were already masterpieces of natural engineering. "Look at how they build things," Tai observed one afternoon, watching construction workers at the facility. "They don't just use machines. They work with their hands, feel the materials, understand them in ways we never could." Even their social structures reflected their adaptation to Earth's challenges. Humans instinctively formed teams, combining different skills and viewpoints to solve problems. They passed knowledge down through generations, each building on what came before. "We thought Earth was a HellWorld because nothing could survive here unchanged," Sue said during one of their evening discussions. But that was the point. Earth didn't allow anything to remain unchanged. It forced life to adapt or die. The aliens watched a group of children playing soccer, their young bodies already showing the strength and coordination that would make them formidable adults. Earth hadn't just created survivors, it had forged a species that thrived on challenges. "I understand now," Jun said quietly. "We classified Earth as uninhabitable because we were looking for a world that would accommodate life as we knew it. Instead, we found a world that demanded life become stronger." As their training continued, the aliens began to see their own limitations differently. Their dependency on technology wasn't a sign of advancement. It was a sign that their species had never been challenged to develop natural alternatives. Earth wasn't a hellworld. It was a forge, and humanity was its masterpiece. The aliens were learning not just how to survive here, but why humans had become the remarkable species they were. And they were beginning to wonder what it meant for the galaxy that such a species was finally reaching for the stars. The command center hummed with tension as Commander Minna spread out digital maps of the forest region. 3 more shade hunters had escaped during the salvage operation of the crashed ship, and this time, everyone knew what they were dealing with. "They're bigger than the first group," Jun reported, reviewing the containment pod data. These were the adults. The others were juveniles. Han and Ta exchanged glances as they studied the thermal imaging feeds. The creatures had already killed local wildlife, leaving behind evidence of their terrifying efficiency. But this time, the humans were ready. "We've modified our ammunition based on what we learned," Minna explained, checking her rifle's new loadout. Jin's analysis of their hide structure showed weak points we can target. The aliens had contributed their technology too. Their motion sensors had been integrated with human tracking systems, creating a surveillance network that could detect even the slightest movement through the dense forest. "First team in position," crackled the radio. "Picking up fresh tracks. These things are smart. They're moving against the wind to mask their scent." Sue watched in fascination as the humans adapted their tactics in real time. When the shade hunters tried to use streams to hide their trail, the teams predicted where they would emerge. When the creatures attempted to separate the hunting parties, the humans turned their own strategy against them. "They're not just tracking them," Jun realized, watching the tactical display. "They're hurting them." The first engagement came at dawn. A shade hunter attempted to ambush a human patrol, not realizing it was being led into a prepared kill zone. The combination of alien sensor technology and human marksmanship proved devastatingly effective. "One down," Minna reported, "but the others will have learned from this. They always do." The hunt continued for days. The humans showed their remarkable endurance, pursuing the creatures tirelessly. They slept in shifts, ate on the move, and never lost the trail. The aliens watched in amazement as their hosts demonstrated why they were Earth's apex predators. "Their tracking ability is incredible," Tai observed as a team followed signs invisible to the alien sensors. "They're reading the forest itself, broken twigs, displaced leaves, patterns we can't even see." The second shade hunter fell to a trap that combined human hunting knowledge with alien technology. They used the creature's own echolocation against it, creating false returns that led it straight into an ambush. But the last one proved why its species was feared across the galaxy. It adapted to every tactic, learned from every encounter, and seemed to anticipate their moves. "It stuck around the old mining complex," Jin reported, studying thermal scans, "using the metal structures to confuse our sensors. Smart." That's when Jin proposed a plan that shocked even her fellow humans. Instead of trying to outsmart the creature, they would use its intelligence against it. They would make it think it was the hunter rather than the hunted. "We'll give it what it wants," she explained. "A chance to hunt us, but we'll choose the battlefield." The plan was unlike anything in the Confederation's tactical manuals. It combined human understanding of predator psychology with alien technology in ways no one had tried before. "You're going to deliberately act as bait?" Sue asked in disbelief. "That's how our ancestors hunted dangerous prey," Han explained. "We didn't just track animals. We learned to think like them, to understand their instincts, and use them against them." The operation launched at midnight. Small teams moved through the complex, deliberately leaving signs for the shade hunter to follow. They played to its predatory instincts, making it think it had found weak prey. "It's following the trail," Jun reported from the command center, watching through integrated human-alien sensors, moving exactly as predicted. The shade hunter stalked through the complex, following what it thought was an easy meal. Instead, it was being led into a carefully prepared trap. Every step it took was calculated, every movement anticipated by humans who understood predatory behavior on a fundamental level. The final confrontation happened in a large warehouse. The creature thought it had cornered its prey. Instead, It found itself surrounded by hunters who had learned from every previous encounter. Now, Jin's voice cracked over the radio. The combination of human tactics and alien technology proved unstoppable. The Shade Hunter, despite its incredible adaptability, had never encountered anything like this coordinated assault. It fell to a precisely planned attack that used its own hunting instincts against it. As the teams regrouped at the facility, the aliens watched their human allies with new understanding. These weren't just survivors of a harsh world, they were its masters. They had taken every challenge Earth had thrown at them and turned it into an advantage. "I never thought I'd see Shade Hunters hunted," Jun admitted during the debriefing. "Your species has accomplished something unprecedented." "We had help," Minna replied, nodding to their alien allies. "Your technology combined with our instincts. That's what made the difference." The successful hunt had proved something important. Humans weren't just strong because of their physical capabilities or their technology. They were strong because they could adapt, learn, and combine different approaches in ways no one else had imagined. The galaxy was about to discover that Earth hadn't just produced survivors, it had created hunters who could outthink any prey, adapt to any challenge, and succeed where other species had failed. And they were just getting started. Ta stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Confederation Council, his image projected across thousands of light years. The council chamber fell silent as he prepared to deliver his report on Earth and its inhabitants. "Distinguished council members," he began, "I request an immediate reclassification of planet Earth, designation DeathWorld 2317. Our previous assessment was not merely incomplete, it was fundamentally wrong." The council members stirred uneasily. DeathWorld classifications were rarely changed. But as Tai shared footage of humans in action, running marathons in crushing gravity, swimming in pressure that would kill most species, hunting creatures that had decimated other worlds, the council's attitude began to shift. "These beings," Ta continued, "have not merely survived their world's hostile conditions, they have mastered them. What we considered lethal challenges, they treat as opportunities for growth." Su's scientific data followed, showing how human biology had turned seemingly primitive traits into sophisticated survival mechanisms. The council watched in amazement as she explained how humans had evolved advantages that most species needed advanced technology to replicate. "They can regulate their temperature through water excretion," she explained. "They can heal bones that would permanently cripple other species. They can process both plant and animal matter for nutrition. Every trait we dismissed as primitive is actually an elegant adaptation." Jun's military assessment caused the greatest stir. He showed footage of humans tracking and eliminating shade hunters, a feat that had required entire armies on other worlds. "They are natural hunters," he reported. "Their physical capabilities combined with their tactical intelligence make them one of the most formidable species we have encountered." The council deliberated for hours. Finally, they reached a decision that would change galactic history. Earth would be reclassified as Cradle of the Steel Forged, acknowledging both the harsh conditions that had shaped humanity and the remarkable species it had produced. Back on Earth, humans responded to the news with characteristic adaptability. Learning they were considered exceptional by galactic standards didn't change their fundamental nature. They simply saw it as a new challenge to meet. "We're establishing a permanent diplomatic mission," Han announced during the celebration at the facility, "and we'd like you three to stay as our first ambassadors." Tai accepted immediately, recognizing the opportunity to learn more from these remarkable beings. Su eagerly agreed to lead a cultural exchange program, her scientific curiosity far from satisfied. Jun's decision to train with human special forces surprised no one. He had found kindred spirits among Earth's warriors. "Your world will change the galaxy," Tai told Commander Mina as they watched the sun set over the mountains, "not through conquest or technology, but through example. You show what life can become when challenged to adapt." The humans had already begun sharing their knowledge with their alien allies. They taught them survival skills, showing how to thrive without relying solely on technology. They demonstrated their hunting techniques, their problem-solving methods, their unique way of combining instinct with intelligence. We never imagined, Sue admitted to Jin during one of their research sessions, that a species could be so perfectly adapted to conditions we considered impossible. Everything we thought was a weakness is actually a strength. The galaxy began to change as news of Earth spread. Other species studied human adaptation methods, learning to depend less on technology and more on developing their natural capabilities. Some even began training under human instructors, though few could match their teachers' natural abilities. The Confederation needs to adapt, Jun told his superiors. These humans, they don't just survive challenges, they actively seek them out. They push boundaries we never knew existed. As the diplomatic mission took shape, Earth began receiving visitors from across the galaxy. Some came to learn, others to trade, but all left with a new understanding of what life could achieve. We were wrong to call this a death world, Tag reflected during the opening ceremony of the new Confederation embassy. It's a world that forces life to become stronger, smarter, more adaptable. The very challenges we feared are what made humanity remarkable. The galaxy would never be the same. The species they had dismissed as primitive natives had proved to be masters of survival, adaptation, and growth. Earth was no longer a HellWorld to be avoided. It was a crucible where life had been forged into something extraordinary, and humanity was just beginning to show what they could do. "Welcome to Earth," Han said to a group of new alien visitors, smiling as they struggled with the gravity. "Don't worry, we'll teach you how to thrive here. After all, that's what humans do best. We adapt, and we help others adapt too." The HellWorlders had arrived on the galactic stage, and they were ready to show the universe what they could become.